Hello, this is Brendan Gavin, reading enthusiast and self-published author. Today I'm reviewing the Kobo Elipsa. It is a very unique device in that it serves two purposes. It is a bona fide e-reader and, secondly, a note taker. What drew me to this originally was the 10-inch screen. It's beautiful, as you can see here. Just crystal clear. It's a fantastic device for reading. The more traditional forms of things like print magazines and PDFs. I'd say that in itself is a reason to love this. But the biggest reason that I bought this device was to harness the power of its note-taking capabilities. In my daily work life, it is common for me to take notes, as well as I simply hate rewriting notes from hand, right? So often I'll take notes on paper pads, and then in order to get them back onto my computer, I'm having to rewrite them. So that is a pain. Secondly, as an author, the annotation capability seemed really neat to me. It allows me to mark up any non-protected DRM document, and this makes it useful for me to take notes within the margins of my manuscripts versus printing them out on paper and then doing them in pen. So I think it's also, for that reason, very useful for students or researchers, IT professionals, and really anyone who routinely reads things to learn things, so to speak, and also those who edit or proofread. And again, the ability to have an e-reader and a note taker in one single device is huge. I mean, at the end of the day, who wants to carry a laptop, e-reader, and note taker, three devices, I guess, if you don't have to? So for the remainder of this video, I'm going to test these two functions in real-world use cases that will definitively prove whether or not the Kobo Elipsa is ready and able to be your professional-grade note taker. But without keeping you in full suspense, I will conclude that the Elipsa is an imperfect device. And if note-taking is your primary need, then there are exactly two leaps of faith you'll have to make. Hang in there and find out why. So, in order to determine if the Elipsa is a capable professional note-taker, I'm going to use 6 criteria. The first criteria is, what is the likelihood of losing the pen? The second is, what is the elapsed time from device boot to a write-ready state? In other words, simply how long does it take for it to turn on and get it to a point where I can start writing? Thirdly, what is the writing experience from a responsiveness and effectiveness perspective? Fourthly, what does the text recognition quality look like? 5, I'll talk about the ease of transferring notes to the computer. And then the last one, of course, is the annotation experience. So again, those are the top 6 that will help me determine whether this is a keeper or something that just isn't ready for prime-time note-taking. Okay, so we're going to start with the first one, the very, very first criteria. Again, that was likelihood of losing the pen. In my opinion, this is a slam dunk for the Elipsa. As you can see, the Elipsa's pen is in a holder. It's a tracked holder, as you can hopefully see there. And it fits quite snugly in, I might add. So for me to take the pen out, I have to reach in a little bit and pull it out. So it takes a little bit of effort to push the pen back into the holder. You can hear it click. And the second thing is that the holder is magnetized, so you get both friction and magnetic forces holding the pen. The latter is particularly useful for situations where you want to place the pen down just for a moment or two, since it does a great job holding the pen in place without having to have it in the actual track of the holder itself. So let me just demonstrate that to you. I'm just going to put it there. As you can see, the pen is resting on top, and if I flip the device, as you can see, the pen stays there. So and then I think the last thing that I'll note is the cover. I mean, a lot of people have criticized the cover as being sort of cheap and flimsy. I'm a little more, uh, I guess, happy with it than most. But again, from the likelihood to lose the pen, it's absolutely very little, as you can tell. Once this thing is covered, you're good to go. And when it's not, this thing is in here so good that I would have absolutely no worries about losing that pen. So again, top marks for the Elipsa relative to whether or not you're going to lose the pen. I think that's going to be pretty tough. Now I'm going to cover number 2. What is the elapsed time it takes from when the device boots up to getting into a write ready state? One thing that drives me nuts, having used Windows writing tablets, is the time it takes to boot the device and get it into a write ready state. For example, you'd have to power the tablet on, perhaps sign in using a password, click your application icon, and about a minute later you're ready. And I know what you're thinking, just get it ready before you arrive to your meeting so it doesn't take that long. But it doesn't really work that way, because normally you're leaving another meeting, most likely late, arriving at the conference room door, you're waiting at the door of the room for it to clear out. You engage in small talk across the table once you sit down, and then all of a sudden somebody calls the meeting to order, and in that moment your tablet went to sleep, and by that time it's booted back. You've missed the introductions, or um, the beginning where they state a lot of interesting parts that you really need to know, and you weren't able to write down the names and job descriptions of the participants. So at the end of the day, let's look at how the Elipsa will fare. So I'm going to hit the power button, and as you can see, that went into a write ready state almost immediately. I mean, that was less than a second. I mean, that's fantastic. So, however, I did do one cheat. I'll be honest. I put the Elipsa to sleep with the Notepad. This is the Notepad app. With the Notepad app up. That meant when I booted up again, it went directly to the app, because that was the last application that I was in. Had I been in a book, reading a book, it would have went to the book next. All of that is to say, if it had gone to the book, I would have had to have exited the book, gone to the home screen, and tapped the notebook icon to get into the writing state. That would have taken me a little bit longer, but even still, it would be a fraction, I think, of what it would take in a Windows type device. Now, I do think it would be nice to have the choice presented to you at boot up, in terms of, do you want to book into into your notebook? That's a small thing, but again, for this test, the elapsed time from boot to the write ready state, I mean, I give it top marks. It goes right in there. You're not going to miss anything. Now we will test the core writing function. The question is, will the Ellipsis writing experience pass the test? I'm going to look at the writing experience both from a responsiveness and an effectiveness perspective. So what I will do is I will transcribe an online lecture, not verbatim, but I will take down the key themes just as I would if I were at work, or perhaps if I were a student, for example. Let's give it a try.
The biggest issue I see with so-called AI experts is that they think they know more than they do. And they think they're smarter than they actually are. In general, we are all much smarter than we think we are, but much less smart, dumber than we think we are, by a lot. So this tends to plague smart people. They just can't. They define themselves by their intelligence, and they don't like the idea that a machine could be way smarter than them, so they discount the idea, which is fundamentally flawed. This is the wishful thinking situation. Um, I'm really quite close to, or I'm very close to the cutting edge in AI, and it scares the hell out of me. Um, it's capable of vastly more than almost anyone knows, and the rate of improvement is exponential. Um, you can see this in things like AlphaGo, which went from, in the span of maybe 6 to 9 months, it went from being unable to beat even a reasonably good Go player to then beating the European World Champion, who was ranked 600, then beating Lisa Doll 4-5, who'd been world champion for many years, then beating the current world champion, then beating everyone while playing simultaneously. Then there was Alpha Zero, which crushed AlphaGo 100-0. And Alpha Zero just learned by playing itself, and it can play basically any game that you put the rules in for. Whatever rules you give it, it literally read the rules, play the game, and be superhuman for any game. Nobody expected that rate of improvement. If you ask those same experts who
Okay, with the writing done, I want to say that the writing itself is really, really neat. The surface of the Kobo is textured, and it makes for a nice writing experience. Definitely much nicer than the clear, smooth screens of Windows tablets I've used in the past. However, I think you can agree, based on what you saw there as I was writing, that there's something else that warrants attention. You may have noticed my handwritten words seem to appear a second or so after my pen has scribed them. Um, and it's even quite jarring the faster I do it. I think in that specific example, I was a little more controlled. But when you're really going at it, um, you really don't get the instant feedback that you would get, like you would when you're writing with pen or paper. So it makes for a strange experience since it is something I am not used to. And this is where your first article of faith comes in. You need to trust that the ellipsa will complete the words as you write them. And once I managed to do this, I found this shortcoming to be much more tolerable. But even with this in mind, though, and with some practice, it's still less than an optimum writing experience. As per effectiveness, the ellipsa did in fact capture the words as I wrote. However, the quality of my handwriting suffered a little bit without that instant feedback that was caused by the delay. This, as you will see, has implications for character recognition. But in summary, the writing experience is good, especially for light note taking where you are not in any rush to transcribe and write spoken words. However, this is not the professional note taker that I've been on the hunt for years for. And this leads me to the second article of faith, and that is that Kobo updates the software someday to eliminate that delay between writing and the written word appearing on the screen. Kobo was recently purchased by Rakuten, and it is my hope that they will not leave the buyers of their flagship product without great support. I'm hoping it's like the iPhone when it was first launched, as imperfect as it was. Apple made sure that the improvements were being pushed on regular iOS updates, and obviously through new releases of the phone. And that's why Apple has enormous brand loyalty. So over to you, Rakuten. The ball's in your court. Next, we're going to talk about the fourth criteria, that is text recognition. Handwriting legibility is a major factor in text recognition quality. So I will convert the notes that I just took, but also will show you what it looks like when I convert a paragraph of text that I wrote slowly and carefully. So let's try it out. As you can see there, you invoke text recognition by merely tapping the screen twice. It's thinking. Still thinking. And there we go. So what it did is it transcribed the first line. It says here, Musk, that's the biggest issue is scientists think they know more than they do. So that's actually pretty good. I'll do a few more here, but I think the only word, if I understand correctly, that it got wrong was the word thinks. Obviously, that's a pretty big miss, but again, I suspect it has more to do with my handwriting than anything else. He disagrees that with the consensus that AI will be 9. Again, that's close. And there, I did the whole paragraph this time. It says Musk is scared of AI, especially since the rate of improvement is exponential, kind of. Refers to the AI system Alpha 60, then Alpha 0. So um, again, I think the handwriting legibility has a pretty big impact here, but as you can see, it's not bad. So if I were to import this into my computer, all I'd really have to do is clean it up. Now, um, I think the rate of accuracy here is probably above 80%. Um, and again, I'd prefer to import this into my computer and clean this up, knowing it's about 80% or so, versus having to rewrite them 100% from paper. So yeah, this is pretty good. So what I will do now is I will take a look at a paragraph of text that I wrote much slower, and then let's do text recognition on that. Okay, so here I wrote out the first paragraph in much better writing, and we're going to check the character recognition by tapping twice. Here we go. It says, Musk thinks the biggest issue is that scientists think they know more than they actually do. So as you can see there, that sentence was transcribed through character recognition at 100%. So very well done. And it is what you'd expect in this day and age. So kudos to Kobo for that. So as far as text recognition accuracy, I think in both counts, it definitely meets the test. For the fifth criteria, we're going to talk about the ease of transferring notes to the computer. The Elipsa uses two methods to do this. One is to hook a USB cable up to your computer. The other, which I think is easier and faster, is to connect to your Dropbox account. The Kobo gives you a free 2 gig storage account at Dropbox, and I love free stuff, and so I will demonstrate this for you. And I think it's much easier as well than transferring via USB. So effectively, what you do is you come up here and you click Export to Notebook. Pretty simple. It will ask you, do you want to export to your computer or export to Dropbox? I'm going to select export to Dropbox. Of course, I've set up the Dropbox account prior to doing this. It says scanning for networks. And this is a pretty neat option as well. You get to choose, do you want to export this as a Word document, a text document, or an HTML? I think that's pretty cool. So I'm going to just say Word, and I'm going to click Export. And it's in the process of doing it. It says Notebook exported. You can access this file in the Rakuten Kobo folder of your Dropbox account. So let's go look at that. So here is my Dropbox. It's very simple to locate the recently updated notepad. I just click on this folder for exported notebooks, and voila, there it is. As you can see, it is a Word doc. I can download it and then edit it, but if I just wanted to take a look at it, make sure everything is there, as you can see, it's right there. So folks, it doesn't get much easier than this. It's very quick. And I think this is really, really good, and it just beats having to connect the device to your computer. So 2 thumbs up. Great work, Kobo. I'm glad this feature is here, and it just works great. So now we're going to get into criteria number 6, which is the annotations experience. Elipsa, again, allows you to annotate non-DRM protected documents for authors, researchers, students, and generally anyone who reads things to learn. Makes annotations a very unique feature. As an author, I routinely print paper versions of my chapters and mark them up in the editing process using a red pen. This is very effective, but printing large amounts of paper can be a bit of a pain, and keeping them all together can be too. So I will try this out using the Elipsa to see how it works. So here we go. What I might do is, I might point to things and say, um, you know, fix this. I may say move paragraph to end of chapter. I may say spelling wrong, or any number of things, right? Um, what's this? So that's pretty good. Let me show you as well. In fact, in order to do this effectively, let me perhaps do a few on another page. Okay, why is this here? Maybe I see some inconsistency. Shouldn't Marcus be at home? Okay, you get the message. Now, let's talk about what you can do with them now. Essentially, by clicking on this button down below, you get to see your annotations. And it's thinking. Here we go. Now, the way that Kobo organizes the annotations, it organizes them by page. So if you recall, I put a whole bunch on the first page and some on the second page. So let's take a look at this. So as you go in, you click on the annotations, and then you see them there. So again, that's pretty cool. The other thing is you can go to the second set by going back into this, or you can flip the pages in the book if you wish. But again, clicking on this will bring you back to the other annotations that you might have. I'm going to put a few more annotations in here arbitrarily because I do want to show you something, and I need a few in here to be able to demonstrate it. Okay, I think that's enough. So I will go back into annotations, and this is where I think there's a couple things that we can talk about. So in terms of the annotation experience, I think it's quite good. However, it's not as useful as I would like. What you may have noticed is that there is a lack of white space around the text. I set this text at the lowest setting, and even still, the fact that you don't have a lot of white space between the paragraphs really limits the richness of the notes that you can take on the page. So Kobo, if you're listening, consider a feature request to allow the option to justify the document to either the left side or the right side in order to create a bigger section of white space for notes. However, again, I think this is great for simple editing, for underlining, and annotations. Another shortcoming is that you cannot export the annotations. I'd like to be able to see these on a big monitor while I have my manuscript on a second monitor. And this way I can easily read the annotations and make changes to my manuscript. However, you can only see the annotations on your device. So I've gotten used to propping up the Elipsa against my second monitor, kind of like this. And it is a decent workaround, I will say. Now there is one other pane I'd like to show you, and it's when I go and I review the annotations. So let's go back and review the annotations. That's great. Okay. So as you can see here, I really like how that they list the annotations here. You don't have to go flip pages to find them. That's great. That's exactly what I want. But watch what happens when I go out um, and pick, let's say I'll pick the last annotation here. Okay. So I'm going to click on that annotation. Remember, that was the last one. Now, again, as we talked about, it brings me to the page, and you can see the actual handwritten annotation. Okay. Um, Now, watch what happens when I go back. So when I go back, it automatically brings me back to the top of the list. And now I got to go scroll down and find the annotation. I mean, in this case, it's not hard because I know it's the last one. But if you can imagine, you've got dozens or maybe even hundreds of annotations. You click the annotation button to bring you this list. You'd want to go back to where you left off. So it's a pain. I was beta reading a novel for a friend, and I had this exact challenge, and it was very frustrating. Um, I'd say it's also more frustrating because the annotations aren't numbered either. Um, they certainly have dates, but and the chapter headings, but that's not good enough. Like I'd rather know that if I'm working on annotation 60, uh, at least if I lose my spot, I know I can go back to 60. But again, I do think that clicking that button should bring you back to where you left off. So again, I pray that Kobo will make the software update and fix this nagging issue. So in summary, the annotation feature is good, and while it is not without its shortcomings, I give it a positive on the whole. So there you have it. In summary, my thoughts after working with the Kobo Elipsa is that I will stick with it. My hope is that Kobo will not leave its customers hanging and will be diligently upgrading the software on the device. From my perspective, the Kobo is a fantastic e-reader. The screen is gorgeous, and that extra 2 inches on the 10-inch screen over the 8-inch Kobo Forma make this device a standout device for me. Remember, the Elipsa clocks in at about $150 over the Forma. Again, that's not chump change, but if you think about the extra 2 inches on the screen size uh, and the writing capabilities, as I've noted, as imperfect as they are, I think are a bargain for that additional $150. Again, I do not believe this is a professional, capable writer. I think it's almost there. If writing is your primary use case, I think there's probably other devices like the Remarkable 2 that might be better. Again, if you want an all-in-one device, so you're not having to carry too many devices around with you, this does a very reasonable job of writing that I just hope gets better. So, what do you think? Do you disagree with my assessment? Or will you be rushing out and getting an Elipsa? Or do you think the device is not the one you're looking for? Let me know in the comments. And please hit the like button if you did indeed like it. It helps support my channel. And if you found this useful and you'd like to support me, please consider picking up a copy of my novel, The 13th Vote. If you like smart, suspenseful, plot-based sci-fi with big ideas, then it might be for you. And it's just 99 cents on Amazon, and it will be coming to Kobo soon. Thanks for your time, and see you again.